Writing ID equals 65,391. Variant equals creative. Title equals a lonely CEO thought he was meeting a model on a blind date, but it's a poor single mom who stole his. It started with a mistake. One message, one photograph, one night that was supposed to be perfect. Ethan Cole, the kind of man who seemed to have it all, money, power, reputation, sat in a candle-lit restaurant waiting for someone he thought would complete the image he'd built for himself. He was told she was a model, flawless, charming, sophisticated. But what he didn't know was that the woman walking toward him that night wasn't the one in the photograph. She wasn't a model at all. She was a single mother with a broken phone, an empty wallet, and a heart full of desperation. And yet, by the end of that night, she would steal something from him, something far more precious than his money or pride. She would steal his heart. Ethan had built his empire on precision. Every deal was calculated, every decision efficient. But lately, his life had been hollow, a string of meetings, luxury hotels, and a loneliness that success couldn't quiet. His assistant had convinced him to try something new, a blind date arranged through a private agency. He agreed only because it seemed easier than another night alone with his thoughts. So he waited in his usual crisp suit, checking the time, already expecting disappointment. Meanwhile, across town, Claire Daniels was having the worst day of her life. Her son, Jamie, had fallen sick. The landlord had taped another warning notice to her door, and her phone had died after she used the last of her paycheck to pay for medicine. When she borrowed her neighbor's old phone to message her friend about a babysitter, she accidentally replied to the wrong text, one meant for a client of the dating agency her friend worked at. She didn't realize it until the man confirmed the meeting spot and time. At first, she planned to apologize and cancel, but then she saw her empty fridge, the past due bills, and the look on her son's face when she promised she'd figure something out. Against her better judgment, she went. Not for a date, for a chance, maybe a free meal, maybe something to distract her from the sinking feeling that life had passed her by. When Ethan saw her walk in, he blinked. She wasn't the glamorous blonde he'd seen in the file. Her hair was slightly messy, her dress plain but clean, her eyes nervous but kind. He almost stood up to leave, but something he couldn't name made him stay seated. "You're not what I expected," he said, unable to hide his confusion. She froze, realizing immediately what had happened. "I'm so sorry," she blurted out. "There's been a mistake. I shouldn't be here." But instead of leaving, Ethan found himself asking her to sit. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the first real conversation he'd had in years. She spoke awkwardly at first, trying to explain, then laughing at herself. He found himself smiling, something rare. They talked about everything, her son, his company, the idea of happiness. Hours passed like minutes. By the time the restaurant closed, Ethan felt something he hadn't in years. Peace. The next day, he couldn't stop thinking about her. He told himself it was pity or curiosity. But when he saw her again, at a small bakery, buying discounted bread with coins, he realized it wasn't. He followed her out, embarrassed but driven by something deeper. That's when he saw Jamie, her little boy, waving a handmade paper plane. It had "For Mom" written on the wing. Claire turned red when she saw him. "You shouldn't have followed me," she said softly. "I told you I wasn't who you thought I was." "I know," Ethan replied, "but I think you're exactly who I needed to meet." Over the next few weeks, Ethan found himself drawn into her world, a world far different from his own. Small apartments, long bus rides, laughter that came easily despite hardship. He started helping her quietly, anonymous payments, groceries left by her door. She found out, of course, and was furious. "I don't need your pity," she told him, tears in her eyes. "I've survived without anyone for years." "I don't pity you," he said quietly. "I admire you." Their worlds began to blur, the lonely CEO and the struggling single mom. She taught him what it meant to live for something more than money. He showed her that not everyone with power used it for themselves, but when the truth about their meeting came out, when the press found photos of them together and twisted the story into a scandal, everything fell apart. Claire's job was threatened, her landlord demanded more rent, and Ethan's board called it a liability. For the first time, Ethan had to choose between the life he'd built and the woman who'd taught him to live. He chose her, but by then she was gone, moved out, changed her number, vanished into the noise of the city. For weeks he searched, only to find a note slipped under his office door. "Don't come after me. You deserve your world, and I can't belong to it." Months passed. Ethan threw himself into work again, but nothing filled the quiet, until one morning, while visiting a local community center for a charity project, he saw a familiar laugh, a familiar paper plane flying through the air. Jamie was older now, taller, and his mother was there, helping other single parents find jobs, smiling in that same unguarded way. Claire froze when she saw him. "Ethan, what are you doing here?" He smiled, holding out a folded paper plane. "You stole my heart," he said softly, "and I think it's time you gave me back the chance to prove I'm not going anywhere." Tears filled her eyes, not from pain this time, but relief. For once, she didn't run. And as the plane drifted between them, landing gently at her feet, she realized that sometimes the wrong message can lead to the right person. That love doesn't come dressed in perfection. It comes when you least expect it, from the person who sees your broken pieces and still chooses to stay. By the end, Ethan didn't just rebuild his empire. Together they built something stronger, a family, a purpose, a love that wasn't bound by status or appearances. And every time their son launched a paper plane, they remembered how it all began, with a mistake that changed everything.